Hi friends, welcome to RBI Grade B. We are back with yet another important lecture on the current affairs series that we are doing for you. So this is the lecture from the 1st of April 2022 to 10th of April 2022. As you all know that we have separated PIB from the current affairs. So let's begin with the current affairs. So for PIB there would be different video. Right. So beginning with the first piece of news which is very important regarding the monetary policy that you have come across in this way, right? So as per the monetary policy review, the repo rate is as unchanged, MSF stands at 4.25, bank rate 4.25, and there is a new thing which has been introduced in this monetary policy, that is standing deposit facility, right? So this one we would not understand here. When we move on to the second piece of news, we will understand this, right? So let's see the voting pattern. So voting pattern was unanimous. All the member, voted unanimously to keep the policy repo rate at 4%. Right. The next meeting date is June 6 to June 2022. Now there are few other things that has come across in the monetary policy. What are those? Those are digital lending and update on KIC. So what RBI has said, based on the some of the scams that has happened regarding KYC. For example, what has happened recently, let us understand. For example, so this is my PAN number, right? This is my PAN number, and let's say someone knows this, okay? Somebody named, let's say, Shyam knows my PAN number. So what he will do, he will download few apps from the Google Play Store which offers a loan of 5,000, 10,000 or something like that, or maybe 2,000. He would put my PAN number and he would take the loan. So I would not know, right? So see, now you might be thinking, how does that happen? Yes, that has happened. That has happened with whom? Indiabulls customer Dhani loans, right? So people used somebody's else PAN number and the fraud was going on that way, right? So RBI will come on an update regarding KYC, and the background story is this. The reason is this. Now let's move to the second important thing about the inflation. So what RBI did was, RBI has projected the retail inflation at 5.7%, which is close to 6%, the upper limit of the tolerance level. What is the tolerance level of the RBI? It's 4 to 6%, right? So 5.7% is close to 6%. This is what RBI has projected, right? So in the previous policy, it was 4.5%. Now, RBI's forecast economic growth, about the growth, it has cut 60% at 7.8%. Means initially it was what? 7.8%. From 7.8%, RBI has done it at 7.2%. See, these are the very crucial data. Why? Because in the last monetary policy, you have studied 7.8. Now they have changed it to 7.2. Now in the examination, you would get confused if you are not revising it properly. So when you are watching this video, it's good. Also, you will have to take down our current affair material and go through it at least 3 times for this crucial data. Then you can keep it in your memory, right? So in the you can see this is about the GDP production, inflation 4.5 to 7.5, and the next one is regarding GDP from 7.8 it's 7.2, right? Now the next thing is cashless withdrawal. So RBI has come, there is a facility of cashless withdrawal, but where it is now available, I think, with the State Bank of India customer and few other banks. But that is what they are doing with their app only. Means if you are a holder of State Bank of India account, then you can withdraw the cashless withdrawal. Means without debit card, you can do it using their ATM network. You can't go to Sjfc ATM and do that. But RBI is coming up with things where you can go any ATM and withdraw your amount. So it would be based on the UPI network. So UPI will act as a messenger, and rest everything will be on the national financial switch, right? So I hope you understood this one. Now let's move to the next that is held to maturity limit hiked, right? So the limit was 22% from 22. Now it has been hiked to 23%, right? Rest, if you go through it, you will understand what this is. Now Let's move to the next news of next article, that is standing deposit facility, which you have already seen. I told you that we will see it in the next one. So this is standing deposit facility. This is by RBI. When RBI has announced it? RBI has announced it during the monetary policy review, right? So this standing deposit facility would replace the fixed repo fixed rate repo reverse FRRR as the floor for the liquidity adjustment facility corridor, right? So these are the very few important data. This is effective from April 8, 2022. What is the eligibility criteria? All LF participant can come here and participate. What is the tenor? So it is again a tool to manage the liquidity, as simple as that, right? So timings and all, these are not so important. What is very important is the rate of interest. The rate of interest is, it will be 25 basis point below the policy repo rate, right? So see, if you remember it 3.7%, you are doing a mistake, because in next 2 months what happens? If the policy repo rate changes, this will also change. So what you have to remember is, it will be 25 basis point below the policy repo rate. I hope this is clear. Then let's move to the next one, CRR and SLR eligibility. Yes, deposit under the SDF shall not be reckoned as the balance eligible for maintenance of CRR. Absolutely, cash reserve ratio is CRR, but shall be an eligible assets for maintenance of SLR, right? So the amount that is in the SDF would be eligible for SLR quota, right? Under which section? Under section 24, and for CRR it's in section 42 of the RBI Act 1934, and SLR it's Banking Regulation Act 1949, right? So with this, let's move to the next one, that is digital banking unit. Now, what is digital banking unit? First, let us understand it, right? See, digital banking unit means you can do everything using your mobile phone, right from opening a account to do almost everything. So this is called digital banking. But understand, digital banking refers to present and future electronic banking service provided by the licensed bank for the execution of financial banking and other transactions, right? So for the existing bank, those who do not have, this is for them, right? Now the first, it was announced when? It was announced by the Honorable Finance Minister during the Union Budget 22-23, right? For setting up 75 digital banking unit in 75 districts for 75 years of independence. That is what we are celebrating, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, right? Now, who can apply? To all domestic commercial bank. Remember some keywords: domestic scheduled commercial bank, excluding RRB, payment bank and local area banks, right? So see, payment banks are mostly in the digital banking space. Look at Paytm, look at Airtel Bank, look at Fino, right? So most of them are in the digital banking space. So what will be the product? The product will be offered both in the asset side and in the liability side. Means digital banking, it would be a comprehensive service where you not only open an account, but also you can take some debt, right? So that's the asset for the bank. So let us understand what is asset side product and what is liability side product. So liability products means account opening, saving, RD account, digital kit, then debit card, credit card. So all these are liability. Assets are making application for onboarding of customer for identified retail MSME or thematic loans to MSME, right? So all these things are under the digital banking unit. So let's next move to the next news article, that is statement on developmental and regulatory policies, right? So the statement sets out various development and regulatory policies relating to these three heads: liquidity measure, regulation, supervision and payment and settlement system. Now these are year end. So since this piece of information has come out after 31st March, so what you will find under the liquidity measure, regulatory and supervision, and payment and settlement system is what the major thing that RBI has done throughout the year. That is what you will find, right? So I will highlight few important points. Rest everything the current you will have to study from the current affair material. So standing deposit facility, which you have already seen, so let's not discuss. First is liquidity measure that we are looking. Okay, next we will look regulatory and supervision. Okay, so the second one is semantic LAF corridor, which is again related to SDF, which we have seen in the second article. Next, let's come to regulation and supervision. So in regulation supervision, individual housing loan, rationalizing of risk weight. So RBI has made some changes in this head. Then SLR holding in HTM category, which also we have seen in the first piece of news article during the monetary policy review, right? Then discussion paper on climate risk and sustainable finance. So you remember this news has come out in the recent, I think in the month of Feb, right? Where RBI has studied that if not, India is one day, will adopt to few of the the economy will go through a change because of climate change. For example, the in COP 26, the Prime Minister has made some commitment that India would be reduce 50% fossil fuels by the end of 2030. So what is that impact on the banking sector? So this is that discussion paper, right? And the long term, by 2070 we would be carbon neutral. So what would be the impact on the banking and the finance sector? That is what looking. See, I will tell you one of the important thing here. Now you would think, how will fossil fuel impact the banking sector? See, banking sector uses what? Electricity. Maybe when you go to one branch, you will find 5 AC runnings, 10 lights running, that's it. But think of the bank's server, think of the UPI network, right? Think of the the system, the NSE system, the Bombay Stock Exchange system. All this are happening because of electricity. And how we are producing electricity? We are producing it from the thermal power plant using coal. So that's not a renewable energy, right? So that is how things are connected. For example, if you look at Sri Lanka, the stock exchange are opening for maybe 1 or 2 hours. That is, there is no fixed time. Why? Because they do not have that much electricity to run the stock exchange throughout the day. That's the impact of even electricity on the stock exchange. You will have to think broad when you read this kind of news. Then, Committee for Review of Customers Service Standard in the RBI regulated entities, right? RBI regulated means whosoever is the entity regulated by RBI, there is a committee so that the customer service standard can be raised. So there is a review committee, right? Then payment and settlement system. So again, cashless withdrawal, which we have already seen that RBI is coming up. Then Bharat bill payment. So the amount required to set up has been the changes is made there, right? So initially it was 100 crore and now it is up to the requirement is 25 crore, right? So let's now move to the next news article, that is result of survey by RBI, right? So this are the survey that RBI has made in the last maybe the last quarter and the last year, you can say. Consumer confidence March 2022, inflation expectation survey of household March 22. Then this is quarter 3 OBI-CUS survey on the manufacturing. Now OBI-CUS we will see when we come there. Then industrial outlook for the quarter 4 in the last financial year. Then survey for professional forecasters on macroeconomic indicators round 1. 75th bank lending survey quarter 4. Then quarter 4 service and infrastructure outlook for quarter 4. So we are not going to read it out in the video. All the important points have been given, but again what I will like to say, you will find very few things which can come in MCQ, right? But we are making this current affair so that anything that is related to your descriptive part can also be covered, right? So if you ask us that whether is all this thing is important for MCQ, absolutely. See, MCQ, what is important and what not is important, right? That no one can 100% predict. But these are one of the things that are least important when it comes to MCQ. But for descriptive, I would say, this is not one of the important, but still these are important, right? You should go through this 7 survey at least 2 times, right? So minute points, data, even if you try to remember, high chances that you will forget because there are more data. But you will have a general sense of what RBI has done throughout the year and what is the impact, right? So that is the context of putting the data here, right? So it would be the request, please go through it at least 2 times, and that would be enough. Okay, so let's now move to the next news article. So this were the 7th one. All the 7 survey, you will find the important points, important highlights in the respective box. Then bank credit growth based on the last financial year, okay, until September 2021. What we can see is it's 8.6% growth rate in financial year 22, up from 5.6% in 21. So this shows that they have increased their asset book, right? Because what is bank credit? What is credit for banks? The credit for banks are asset. So that is how, they have increased their asset book. So now let's move to the next one. This is financing news, SDFC twin merger, right? So you might have come across a news that SDFC, housing finance company is getting merged with SDFC Bank. So what is SDFC Bank? You remember, it's domestically systematically important bank, means too big to fail. So SDFC is big in size. Now with the merger of the parent company with the SDFC Bank, it is becoming a mammoth, right? Twice the size of ICICI Bank it is becoming, right? And also this size can be compared with the global banks. So you can see after the merger, SDFC Bank and SDFC would rank 6 globally in terms of asset size, will rank 72 in terms of revenue, will rank 26 in terms of net profit, will rank 29 in terms of pardon me, I did a small mistake, right? So it's in terms of market cap it's 6, in terms of asset size it's 72, in terms of revenues it's 26, in terms of net profit it's 29. So this would be the size of SDFC group after the merger, so which will become SDFC Bank eventually, right? So who is at number 1? It's JP Morgan, right? Bank of America, mostly American banks, and then comes the Chinese bank in the next 3 position. Okay, so let's next move to the next one, core sector growth, right? So you remember what are the core sector? How many core sectors are there? There are 8 core sectors, right? These are the 8 core sectors, and 40.42% is the contribution for IIP, right? So the core sector has grown 5.8% in February and 3.3% in the Feb 2021, right? So let's now move to the next news article, that is PMI Service and Manufacturing. Oh, look, mostly PMI data is being given by IHS Markit, but this data is given by Standard and Poor Global, right? So please do mark when you read this thing. Rest, what we see is manufacturing PMI is recorded 54.0 in March and 54.9 in February. See, the data above 50 shows the growth, whereas data below 50 shows the negative growth, right? What about the service PMI? For March it's 53.6 and for Feb it was 51.8, right? So let's now move to the next one, small saving scheme. So what happened recently is that for this financial year, the government of India has, did not change the interest rate for small saving schemes. Now, what are small saving schemes? It's postal service, postal deposits, saving certificate, and social security schemes, right? Now, let's move to the next one, unemployment data by CMI, Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, right? This is monthly time series data, right? What it has been seen is that overall employment rate in India is 8.10% in the month of Feb 2022, and which fell to 7.6% in the month of March. Look, when you read this kind of data, right? So this becomes very important when your exam is near. For example, this kind of data you have read it in January as well, in month of December, in month of October, in month of November. Those becomes, I won't say those becomes irrelevant, but those becomes least important. This latest data is much important, right? So let's move to the few other things, that like Karnataka and Gujarat registered the least unemployment. So you will have to know about states as well. Let's move to the next one, that is disinvestment targets missed by the government. So government has set the rupees 78,000 crore in the union budget, but the government could only achieve 55%. Okay. So let's these are not so important data, but yes, this is important in the context of descriptive. When you know this kind of data, it helps you write a very broad answer, so you can think broadly. So let's move to the next one. Okay, current account deficit, right? So India's current account deficit widens to 2.7% of GDP in quarter 3. The result of quarter 3 is out, quarter 4 is still not out. Right now you can go through it, you will understand the variations of this 2.3. Right now, as you all know, in every current affair material we tend to put all the static part of it. So this is one of them, current account deficit. You can read it through, right? So India needs 12.4 trillion. So this is a report by Standard Chartered PLC. Now what this report says that if India wants to go carbon neutral by 2060, but what is our target? Its target is by 2060. So they have assumed 10 years early, right? So 2060 is the target that China have agreed. Means China has agreed by they will go carbon neutral by 2060 and India by 2070. So the Standard Chartered PLC says that if India has to achieve the target, India would need $12.4 trillion, right? So this means this amount is almost half the GDP of US. So that is what Standard Chartered says, and you can go through the assessment, you will understand everything, right? Now let's move to the next news article, very important, annual frontier report, right? So annual frontier report, this is again one of the important because an Indian city was highlighted, Moradabad of Uttar Pradesh, right? So we would see the report identifies 3 issues: urban noise pollution, wildfire, and a phenological shift that merit attention and action from government and public at large to address the triple planetary crisis of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. Look, all 3 are almost connected, right? It's because of climate change. You would say, how is pollution? How is pollution generating? It's because of fossil fuels, the air is getting polluted, and because of air, the ozone is depleting. That's why the climate is changing, and that's why the biodiversity loss, because the coral reef is depleting. So is the marine life. The icebergs are breaking or melting. So is the Arctic animals, right? Animals and mammals. So all 3 are connected. So this report tried to address all these 3 things, but usually it highlighted the noise pollution. That is what we will see. So these are the 5 Indian cities: Delhi, Jaipur, Kolkata, Asansol, and Moradabad was mentioned. Specifically, Moradabad in the UP has shown a decibel range from 20 to 114. The maximum is 120, right? So Bangladesh Dhaka is at the maximum value as 119 decibel. Now, what is the standard? The standard set by the WHO in 2018 is 53 decibel, means 53 decibel is the normal. So Moradabad showed a huge variation from 29, from being very silent to 114 to very violent 114, right? So let's move to the next one, that is World Food Price Index. So this was given by whom? This was given by UNFAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. So the food index averaged at 159.3 in March, breaking an earlier record of 137.6 scaled 11 years ago in Feb 2011, right? So the reason it has highlighted is because of the ongoing crisis in the Russia and Ukraine, because Russia and Ukraine were the huge supplier of agricultural product, right? For example, wheat and sunflower oil. Okay, sunflower oil. So in that context, the prices are going up. Rest, if you go through it, you would understand, right? Now, what is food price index? The base year is 2014-16. Rest is you to go through it, right? So this is coming up from 1996. Then QS World University Ranking. This is released by whom? This is published by topuniversities.com. It's quarterly Simon's QS University Ranking. So it has 51 different subjects, means ranked the university in 51 different subjects, 5 composite faculty area and 5 independent regions. So what are those regions? Asia, Latin America, emerging Europe and Central Asia, Arab region and BRICS countries. Right? So this is very important. So if you go through it, you will find world top 10, you will find India top 10 and their respective rank in the context of world. 177 for IIT Bombay, 185 for IIT Delhi and so on. Right? And this is the highlight. This is the actually world highlight. Now, why world highlight is important? Look, recently, the Australian Prime Minister, the Australian delegation was here. There were few discussions regarding the, FTA, and India and Australia has agreed to that as well, some economic cooperation. So for that reason, Australia's data is also important. Few highlighted data, like Australia is 4th most represented country for the number of entries, right? So that is how you will have to understand and read the global data. For example, the Japanese Prime Minister was here. So what is the status of Japan is an utmost important data, right? So let's move to the next one, that is exports. So as you all know, the export in the last financial year we have crossed for 400 billion and we have close to 418 billion in financial year 22, right? And wheat is one of the hero product in that, hitting 7.8 million tons in the fiscal year of March, right? Again, this sharp rise is because of what? Is because of Russia and Ukraine war, because Russia and Ukraine were the biggest supplier of wheat to the European nations, right? So if I say recently, I think India is going to supply to some European nations. I think it's Egypt. Okay, so we would come across that news also, but not in this, probably in the next slides. Now, Manrega ends financial year 22 with negative balance. So this means all the money exhausted and there are money required for payment. So whatever it is given in the current year's budget, some of the amount would go and backfill there. And this almost happens every year. Rest, if you go through it, you will understand there are few reasons, which the report highlights, which is already given. So again, those are important from your descriptive perspective to give you a broad sense when you write the answer. Then IPCC part 3 of this 6th assessment report. So part 3 was the final report by the IPCC. So you can go through it. Part 2, I think it has come in the month of Feb, which is there, right? So Now, Air Quality Database 2022. This is given by whom? WHO on the World Health Day, that is 7th of April. Right? Now, what is the report highlights that more than 6,000 cities in 170 countries are now monitoring air quality. So it says that almost every country have an unhealthy air, right? So let's move. So with this, we have come to the one-liner. Again, like in every video, we tell you one-liners are very, very important. Do not think that we do not put this in the main news, so these are least important. No, right? If you go through it, if you read it, you will understand this also holds much importance. So go through this data as well. With this, we have come to the end of this lecture. We wish you very good luck from Team Grade B. Happy and thank you learning.